The news that Jeri Taylor had passed away spread like a ripple of sadness through the fans of the franchise. Though Taylor had stepped away from active involvement with Star Trek some years ago, her impact has crafted some of Trek's greatest stories, characters, and indeed series. She was a co-creator of Star Trek Voyager, helping to bring Captain Janeway into existence. That Taylor has a lasting impact on Star Trek may seem a simple thing to say, but one needs only look to the tributes coming from those she inspired with her writing too. Aaron Waltke tweeted a memory of how she inspired him as a young writer by donating her annotated scripts to Indiana University. In this action, she was then not just a co-creator of Voyager, but also helped inspire the team that created Star Trek Prodigy. In this list, we will discuss episodes that were either written by Taylor outright, or in which she had a hand, teleplay by, story by, or co-written by. Now really, there are too many for just one list, so here are some honourable mentions: Unification, Suddenly Human, Investigations, Nothing Human, and two of my personal favourites, Eye of the Needle and Persistence of Vision. These are all fantastic episodes that helped improve the franchise as a whole. Jeri Taylor leaves behind an amazing legacy in Star Trek, and here are just some of her best episodes for consideration. I'm Ellie for TrekCulture, and here are the 10 greatest Jeri Taylor episodes. Number 10. The Drumhead. Working from a story by Ronald D. Moore, Jeri Taylor wrote the script for The Next Generation's The Drumhead. We know the episode by now. An admiral obsessed with rooting out the threats to the Federation sets her sights on Jean-Luc Picard, reminding us that nothing is safe when all things are shrouded in good intentions. Taylor was inspired by Senator McCarthy's House Un-American trials, wherein many people were rounded up and put on trial for supposed links to communism. In the future of the 24th century, Taylor wanted to show that the will to protect all we hold dear can slip into the removal of liberties and freedoms, all in the name of being a savior. Gene Simmons plays Admiral Sati, the singular-minded zealot who is exposed for what she is. Taylor described the episode as, quote, darker than what had come before, which at the time was more unusual than not. The Drumhead is an obvious inspiration for ideas like Section 31, displaying the will for a police who will work to save the Federation no matter the cost. Here, Taylor created someone who would easily have given Section 31 the green light, years before the organization was introduced in Inquisition. Number 9. The Wounded. The Wounded, while not the first O'Brien story, was one of the most crucial episodes in crafting what he would become. Taylor took inspiration from Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, wherein a rogue officer continues to fight a war after peace had been declared. Captain Maxwell is the Kurtz character, while both Picard and O'Brien serve as Marlowe. The episode also introduces the Cardassians, and for Star Trek at least, the idea that soldiers who have been trained to fight and kill an enemy one day cannot simply sit and befriend them the next. This is a theme that would become an enormous plot arc of Deep Space Nine, not least in the return of the Cardassians, but in O'Brien himself. Taylor also included the scene where Maxwell and O'Brien sing The Minstrel Boy, a song commemorating those killed in the Irish Rebellion in 1798. This scene would become the crux of the episode, as well as a crucial character moment for O'Brien. The Minstrel Boy would return in What You Leave Behind's montage several years later. The episode was a huge success, frequently appearing on TrekCulture lists as the best of its kind, and is a must-watch before starting Deep Space Nine. Number 8. Resolutions. Resolutions was the second season episode of Voyager that offered something for those JC shippers, something Jeri Taylor was very aware of. With Janeway and Chakotay stranded on New Earth, she was able to explore a new variation on their relationship. While Robert Beltran would later lament that the episode didn't go far enough, Taylor seemed to disagree. Much of Resolutions is left open, allowing the audience to come to their own conclusions as to what happened down there. Chakotay accepted their new land-based status quickly, while Janeway refused to give up hope of finding a cure for their condition. This exemplifies her overall journey. She never stops trying to get her crew home. In Resolutions, as much as Chakotay is a member of her crew, she too deserves a way home. Taylor was ultimately proud of this episode, feeling that both the main and subplots worked well. There may have been those who wished to see a more explicit depiction of their feelings towards each other, but as far as Taylor was concerned, those feelings were very clearly there. And as far as its influence on the fans goes, this episode alone is responsible for so many fan fiction, so much fan art, and an entire collection of JC's shippers, something that is still going strong today, nearly 30 years after the episode aired. Number 7. The Homecoming. Jeri Taylor pitched an idea for the next generation that saw the Enterprise D picking up a Bajoran woman who was en route to save a Bajoran resistance hero. When that woman found him, she discovered he didn't want to be a hero. Michael Piller, upon reading the idea, felt that it would be better suited to Deep Space Nine. The Homecoming was crucial for Star Trek. It was a new direction for Deep Space Nine, centering on the Bajoran Circle, a racist group determined to kick aliens off their world. It featured Frank Langella in a powerful, though uncredited performance. It was also Star Trek's first foray into multi-episode story arcs. The Homecoming, The Circle, and The Siege form the franchise's first 3-story. Ira Steven Behr tweaked Taylor's original idea, switching the reluctant Bajoran leader to a case of mistaken identity. This, along with the burden of leadership being thrust upon them, allowed the episode to explore what it meant to Bajor to deify a man who just wanted to be left alone, and had every right to be. The Bajorans and the Cardassians remain some of the most explored, complicated races in all of Trek, both of whom receiving enormous aid from Jeri Taylor. Number 6. Real Life. Jeri Taylor wrote the teleplay for Real Life based on a pitch by Harry Claw. He submitted the original idea, yet he did not qualify for the Writers Guild of America internship at Star Trek. He impressed Taylor sufficiently that she invited him to pitch to her directly, leading to his story being sold. Taylor then developed it from there. She described the episode as a chance for the audience to see a soulless character achieve a soul, despite the heartbreak and pain that he must face to do so. Real Life goes from being a funny, light fare to a heartbreaking examination of love and loss, all framed by a man who can turn off this reality at any moment. It forces the audience to ask themselves, if they had the option, would they too just switch off the part that hurts to numb everything else? Real Life is a core episode in the journey of the EMH. Robert Picardo delivers one of his strongest early performances, which, combined with Taylor's script, helped to humanize the Doctor in such a way that he could never be ignored again. Number 5. Hunters. Though the Hirogen were introduced in the earlier Message in a Bottle, they make their first true towering appearance in Hunters. However, important as they were for the rest of Voyager's 4th season, the true heart of the story revolves around the data stream coming from Earth. Here, Janeway discovers Mark has moved on, Paris receives a letter from his dad, and Chakotay and Torres learn that all of their friends have been killed. Deep Space Nine and Voyager aired concurrently, with the former's 6th and latter's 4th seasons more or less lining up. The Dominion were dominating storylines on DS9, though weren't a threat to a ship flung 70,000 light-years away. In Hunters, Taylor made the threat seem much closer to home. The episode also canonized several plot points from Jeri Taylor's novel Mosaic. Tuvok's son and mother receive their names, Mark is given a surname, and Paris's father is given a first name. The episode did not receive strong reviews on its initial release, though time has helped to raise its standing in the season, almost to the height of those 2 Hirogen on their ship. Number 4. The Outcast. The Outcast remains one of the most discussed episodes of The Next Generation to this day. It attempted to tackle LGBTQIA+ issues, particularly those concerned with conversion therapy, though it has been judged under par. While modern views may be a little kinder to the episode's intentions, it received backlash on airing. There were those who didn't want to hear a single word regarding conversion therapy or same-sex attraction, while still others felt the episode didn't go far enough. Taylor wrote the teleplay for The Outcast, eager to create something that she knew would be controversial. As a writer, she knew that drama was the best way to touch people's hearts and minds, rather than playing it safe. She wanted to get the conversation underway. She also, though not a gay woman herself, understood what it meant to be disenfranchised. As a woman, she felt that she was in a particular minority, so she could identify with some of Soren's struggle, even if she was coming at it from a different direction. Ultimately, The Outcast set out to get people talking about issues they may not have been all that comfortable with. In that respect, it is a resounding success. Number 3. The 37s. Janeway lands the ship and then finds Amelia Earhart. I mean, what's not to love? Jeri Taylor and Brannon Braga co-wrote this episode together, and it was not without its difficulties. The episode was originally going to close the first season of Voyager, so Braga felt that it should have been a two-parter with a cliffhanger ending to the first installment. He was overruled, forcing the story to begin and end within a single episode. The final product comes together smoothly, though the tone shift that is evident in the fourth and fifth act reflected the process by which the 37s came together. Taylor described the cities that the humans had built as coming to them late in the day, far too late to find a way to depict them on screen. This marked a disagreement between both writers. Braga felt the episode should have featured those cities, while Taylor commented that she didn't see it as a big deal. The 37s is also a turning point in Voyager. The crew, offered the opportunity to stay on this new world with other humans, elects instead to continue on their journey home, thus bringing an end to much of the worry and fear that had permeated that first season. Number 2. Koda. Jeri Taylor wrote Koda when the writing team was struggling with several different episode ideas, none of which were coming together quite as well as they would like. In the episode, the audience gets to see more of Chakotay's feelings towards his captain, while several other key plot elements are confirmed. Much like the later episode Hunters, this episode makes several elements of Taylor's own novel Mosaic canon on screen, such as the details about Janeway's father. Taylor commented that part of the fun of being the executive producer on Voyager was getting to make decisions like that. She came up with that backstory and she was able to then include it. Koda is a strong contender for one of the early, critical episodes for understanding Catherine Janeway. This, added with the terrifying idea of that alien passing as her father, makes for a fine hour of viewing and a fine hour of writing. Number 1. Caretaker. If there is perhaps one episode of Star Trek in which Jeri Taylor was directly involved that could be deemed the most important, it has to be Caretaker. The pilot episode of Trek's fourth live-action series had to go big or go home. Deep Space Nine's emissary was used as a learning tool. Taylor, along with Rick Berman and Michael Piller, knew that it had suffered from its perceived overemphasis on cerebral matters. Caretaker needed to be an action story. The episode launched not just the new show, but an entirely new network. The UPN debuted with Voyager, impressing audiences sufficiently to secure a second season. There were ideas that, with the benefit of hindsight, may have worked slightly better than others, but Caretaker remains one of the strongest pilots in the franchise. The writing process took months, with Taylor's extensive notes detailing the laborious process by which the story came together. Plots were suggested and abandoned, names like Nick Locarno were bandied about, and that Mayfly character was there in the earliest drafts. Disagreements abounded between the producers as to the fate of the Marquis. Rick Berman insisted they put on Starfleet uniforms, while the others argued against this idea. In the end, Caretaker set the scene for Janeway, Chakotay, and the remaining crew of the USS Voyager, thanks in no small part to Jeri Taylor. As I mentioned at the beginning, these 10 episodes are just a fraction of the contribution that Jeri Taylor made to the Star Trek franchise, and I hope you will all join us in passing on our heartfelt condolences to her family and the wider Star Trek family, and expressing our gratitude for the indelible impression that Jeri Taylor made on Star Trek history.